Sorry, my voice chooses now to start acting crazy. So this video is basically talking about everything that happened in the last two videos. So if you have not watched either one of those, I would say check those out before watching this one, just so you kind of know the backstory of what happened in my last pregnancy this past July, August, and kind of how things were handled. Just a quick story. Found out in July the 12th or 13th that I was pregnant. Fast forward to August. Sorry, my dogs are going crazy upstairs if you can hear them barking. Fast forward to August. Had some bleeding. HCG levels were still going up, which is the blood test. It's a test to see how much pregnancy hormone is in your body. But I was still bleeding, and there was no pregnancy found in my uterus. And so I was told I was having a regular miscarriage, that it would pass on its own. That was not by my regular OB. My regular OB came back from vacation and looked at all the reports and stuff and called me in, and I had to have emergency surgery because I was having an ectopic pregnancy. And unfortunately, I was having internal bleeding. And so, yeah, that's what happened mid-August. And I was feeling to be completely blunt, very pissed about how it was dealt with, because I was asking questions and I didn't feel like I was getting the proper care or follow-up needed. I was just being told repeatedly it's just a normal miscarriage, and that my numbers would start to go down. So go check those last two videos out if you've not watched them. This video is more so about the recent event, because while I've been working on healing and getting my mental state back on track, if you don't know, I suffer from anxiety, depression, some other stuff. And so I've been really working hard to focus on my mental after going through not only that loss. I also had a miscarriage back in May of this year, May 21st. And so it's just been a lot the last few months that's taken a toll on not just my physical body, but also my mental state. And so today is Monday, October 10th, 2022. Last week, Tuesday, so October 4th, I was at work and I received a call, and it was the hospital that I was at here in my town that did the procedure, did the surgery. And so I answered, and it was a social worker, and she started the conversation by saying, "Hi, Mrs. McKay, this is so-and-so. I'm a social worker here at the hospital, and I was going through our records, and I see that you had surgery, and you stayed in our facility back in August." I said, "Yes, that's correct." She went on to say, the normal, "I'm sorry for your loss," all of that. And so then she said, "I'm sorry to be making this phone call. Normally procedure would have had a social worker come speak to you while you were staying in the hospital, to kind of have this conversation, but I'm seeing now that no one spoke to you." And so she asked if I had spoken to one, and I said no. I said I only saw my doctor and the different nurses, that came in during the shift changes and all that. And so she said, "Well, again, I do apologize," which after a while you get tired of hearing "I'm sorry." Not only "I'm sorry for your loss," but just "I'm sorry" in general. Like, there's no amount of sorry that someone can say that makes any of it okay. And that's just from my viewpoint and how I feel. So she kept saying, I'm sorry. And like, I had this feeling in my gut. I don't even know how to explain it, because I didn't know what she was going to say. But it's the fact that she was talking about the day and the incident and all of that, and it just kind of like automatically put this almost panic into my body. Like, I got a lump in my throat, my heart was racing, my hands were clammy, because I've worked really hard to move past that and to deal with it. And so having to listen to someone talk about it, I don't want to talk about it anymore. You know, other people may be different. This is just me personally. And so she said, you know, someone should have come in and talked to you about what you would like to do with the remains of baby's body. And that was like being hit by a train. I didn't know what she was going to say or why she was calling me, but I 10,000% was not expecting that to be what she was going to say. And so she continued talking and saying, you know, sometimes parents choose to do a service, whether it be there at the hospital. I guess they have like a little garden type. She didn't call it a what is that place called? She didn't call it the, I can't even think of where you bury bodies. Graveyard. She didn't call it a graveyard. She called it like an angel's memorial or something like that. Saying basically they could do a service there at the chapel in the hospital. I could attend if I would like. And then they would, you know, keep the body there with the other babies that had passed. She said, you know, I could come pick the baby up, which I thought was a sick joke. Because one, it's been almost 2 months. Two, I have no clue what I would do if I were to go and pick the remains up, like how to preserve them, like none of that. That's not my field. And she said, you know, or you can have a funeral home, come pick up the baby's remains and then do your own type of ceremony if you would like. And then she was quiet, like obviously waiting for me to respond, say something. And so after what felt like forever, I finally said, like, you know, like, you still have my baby's remains there? Like, it's been almost 2 months. And she said yes. She said, it's still here. It's been in the lab. And I said, so were you guys like cleaning out the fridge and just saw that my baby was still in there? Like, I'm not understanding how it took 2 months for you guys to contact me and ask me this. And you know, she said something along the lines of it was overlooked or something like that. And I just, again, I couldn't say anything because one, it's reopening this huge wound that I've worked really hard to try to not even close, because it's not closed. It still hurts like hell. But I've worked to like live with, basically. And then also feeling like I just abandoned my baby. If that makes any sense. If you've ever experienced anything like this, maybe you can understand what I'm saying. But like, that is my child, no matter how far along I was. and that is a piece of me. And yes, I didn't get to technically meet my baby and, you know, hold the baby and nothing like that, but it's still a piece of me and a piece of my husband. And to know, like, for almost 2 months, because somebody overlooked it, someone didn't do their job to come speak to me, my baby sat in a lab, and I just, okay, I had to get myself together. So hearing that just like took the breath out of me. And so she said, you know, you can call a funeral home if you would like, because I asked if they offer like cremation, so I could, you know, at least have like a little urn or something. And she said, well, you know, you can call a funeral home and make those arrangements for them to come get the body and do that. And I'm like, I what do I say? Like, I never had to call a funeral home, let alone for one of my children, explain like, hey, this happened 2 months ago. So yeah, she said, you know, you can tell me which funeral home and I can reach out to them, and then they can contact you about what they would need from you on their end. And so I gave her the name that, you know, the one that came to mind here in town. There's several, but the one that I'm most familiar with. And so she again said sorry, apologized, make sure my phone number, all that was correct, which obviously you called me. But so then I just said bye and hung up. I called B, told him what happened. He was at work, so he couldn't really talk. And so I just sat in my office crying. Luckily, I was there alone. And then about an hour, maybe 2 goes by, and the funeral home calls. And I'm sure, you know, they have a certain voice they use with everyone when speaking to someone about their loss or their loved one. But I was just at a point where I don't need you to sound sad and down, and like, I don't want that right now. I don't want you to talk to me like that. And that's exactly what it sounded like. But she called and said, you know, we will need you to come in, sign some papers, giving us permission to go, you know, to the hospital and get the remains, basically. My office is about 20-25 minutes away from where I live. And so, you know, I had home visits that day, and I told her, like, hey, I won't be even back to town until, you know, close to this time. And she said, you know, that's fine, we'll be here. And so I go, they put me in this office type area, and I wait for the lady to come in. She comes in and she's like, I need you to fill this paper out. So it's asking for like my name, signature, the date that I went there, the date I had surgery, if baby had a name. And I'm just like, okay. And so she's like the baby's name, I didn't put anything. I didn't have a name because I didn't know, like, we had names for a boy or a girl, but we didn't know yet. And so I didn't put anything. And she was like, are you okay if I just write baby McKay? And so I'm like, yeah, that's fine. And she's like, well, this is just like the contract, and also consider like the death certificate. And I'm just like in my head the whole time, like just wishing myself to be out of that building. And so she explains like how they'll go get the baby from the hospital, bring it back, like have it cremated, and then call me so I can come pick baby up, is what she said. And I'm like, it's not gonna be like my baby is going to be ashes because you've burned my baby and my baby's dead and my baby's not here. My baby's not in my arms. My baby should be. And like, so I get through that. I get to my car and my crazy self, I'm like, okay, time to go to do this home visit. And so I get to the home visit and I lasted maybe 15 minutes and I'm finally like, listen, this is highly unprofessional and I apologize. Luckily, me and this mom have a good relationship. And I'm like, I can't finish our visit this week. I'm like, I thought I could, but I cannot. Like, I emotionally, mentally cannot stay here right now. And so I left. My sister doesn't work that far from where I was, and so I go see her, tell her what's going on, and lose my complete shit. So shout out to you, sissy, you a real one. But like, y'all, talk about reopening, rehashing that trauma. Like, so like, that's what has been going on. You know, I talked to my mom, my best friend, my supervisor is absolutely the most amazing woman out there. Like, I could not have a better supervisor. I called her, told her what was going on. So shout out to you. I'm not gonna say your name, but if you ever see this video, like, and I know I text you and told you, but you are like amazing, and I'm so blessed to have you as my supervisor. Yeah, so I talked to my mom and she was like, you know, between how they handled the pregnancy and all of that, and how they weren't really willing or giving you answers to what you were asking them, and now this, she was like, you need to see about speaking to someone legal to see, you know, what, if anything, can be done, which I had mentioned to her back in August with like just the doctor, the radiologist, and how that was handled. And I felt like I should have spoke to somebody then, but then to have this done, I don't know, y'all. Like, to me, it's not about, I want to sue people to get money. I've never been a money hungry person like that. It 100% is not about that. Like, even, like, I don't want my baby's death to be a cash cow. That's not what I'm looking for. I want people to be held responsible, because if this is happening to me, it's happening to other people. I can't be the only one that this is happening to. I want them to be held responsible. Like, if I don't do my job, there are children and pregnant moms who don't have food, diapers, bare necessities. They don't have screenings done. They don't know if they're developmentally on track or socially, emotionally on track. Like, if I don't do my job, people suffer. Y'all aren't doing y'all's job. And not that I want anybody to suffer. I want them to be held accountable, because no one should have to go through this and feel how I'm feeling, and to have that trauma and that wound reopened damn near 2 months later. Like, going through it is traumatic enough, and then to be contacted 2 months later because someone overlooked it, it's not acceptable. So I'm trying to figure out how the best way to get these people held responsible is. If for some reason you unfortunately had to go through something like this, can you please comment below and tell me the route that you took or who you contacted. I don't know, y'all. I'm gonna get off here.